Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias.
Hey everybody, Tobias here, and well, I've got 3 new knives from Opinel, and these are knives new to me as well as kind of new in the line of Opinel. And I don't know how long they've been around. I saw them, 2 of them announced on SMKW's channel, and so it's like, wow, those are pretty cool. And then I saw the 3rd one, and it's like, I'm going to give those a try and see what I think of them. And well, I'm going to tell you now, before I even get started, I'm not an Opinel fanboy. Let's put it that way. I don't get excited over them, but I was intrigued by these 3, and so I went and grabbed them. And I will tell you right now, one of them I'm pretty happy with. One of them showed quite a bit of potential, and then the other one is like, I think they missed the mark on this one. But anyway, that's my first opinion of them. That might change over time, but let me get them out here real quick. The first one I showed was the Opinel number 8 Outdoor Sport, and I got the one in orange and gray here, and we'll be talking about that one in a little bit. And then the other one I got here is the Neo 6. This one, this is the one that I feel shows a little bit of potential. And then the last one is the number 12 Explorer. And this was the one that I saw and was really intrigued by and really wanted to grab. And well, it also ended up being the most expensive of the 3, and also the most disappointing in my opinion. It's not that it's bad, it's just that there are other knives that do everything this knife is saying it will do in a much smaller package and a more practical package. Let me put it that way. And the first thing I'm going to start with is this part here, which is the the lanyard hole, or whatever you want to call it. It's big, it sticks out to the side. I didn't think it was going to be quite as big and sticking out to the side as it does. I don't know if you can hammer with this or not. I don't think it would be very feasible for it. And the point of it is, if you push this a little bit loose, you can open it up and you've got a line cutter on the other side here. So it's kind of a slide through line cutter. And the line cutter is kind of useful, but I don't know if it's useful enough, considering that is kind of bulky and awkward. Now, this does not come with like a pouch or anything to carry it in, and that's kind of what you really need. You need to put this in a pouch, I think. I don't think this is something that is going to go well in the pocket. It's kind of big and hefty. Yeah, you've got a lot of area to grip with. It has the typical Opinel collar lock going on, so you slide it around and you can open up the blade. The blade is not extremely long. It is, the blade itself is just under 4 inches long. And then the knife itself is, once the blade is out, is about 10.5 or so, maybe 10.5 inches. Got a nice little clip there. Not a bad blade. It's got some definite thickness to it. Got a 90-degree spine, so I guess you could use it for striking, a ferro rod or something like that. And it is a pretty thick blade. You do have the collar lock, so the blade is going to lock, which is a good thing. But you got a lot of handle for that blade. And the reason you got the handle for that blade is because of this thing back here. It's almost like I wish I would have had more blade and less of this thing going on, because I can always use the blade also for a line cutter. But it is, I guess the line cutter is an interesting feature. And obviously one of the other features of it is you have the whistle here. This is a built-in whistle, and that's one of the things that really attracted me to it, the fact that it is a knife with a built-in whistle. I've got quite a few knives with whistles. And as you can see, it says that it is rated at 110 decibels, which is a pretty loud whistle for outdoor use. Supposedly, you would be able to hear it from about a quarter mile away or so. So, kind of worthwhile. And the other interesting feature on here is this device here, the loosening portion here. If you get this right in the middle somewhere, come on, you can get this all the way out. And this was the other thing that's a selling point for it, is it has this tick remover. That's what this is for. So you can actually remove a tick by basically sliding it into the tick, and you see there's a little gap there, and that's so you can pull out the tick without damaging yourself. You have two different sides on it. That was one of the things that interested me with it. It is a little flexible, and if you notice, it is stuck in the middle, and that's the way it is supposed to be. I'm worried that that tick remover can probably fall out if you're not careful. You know, if you're just, well, if it gets to that point, then it can fall out. Because if this is loose, moving, then the tick remover can fall out. If you have the tick remover in place and it's locked on either side, it's not going to go anywhere. But at the same time, the only way you can get that to show up is to move the tick remover. It's an ingenious idea, kind of an engineering marvel, but I'm concerned. I hate anything that's kind of loose like that. And the other thing is it's pretty heavy, and I don't know if the addition of a tick remover and a whistle and the line cutter is enough to warrant the shortness of the blade. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to like this, but for me, it's a little bit too heavy just for an added tick remover, especially when you can use a fork for a tick remover. Now this is the Neo 6. This is the one that shows a lot of potential in my book, but it's just barely missing the mark. And one of the problems I have with it right away is the lanyard. This is a cheap lanyard, cheaper than a shoelace as far as I'm concerned, and it's not very functional. I don't know how well it's going to stay tied. I think this is some kind of leather, but I don't know. And then once it comes out, well, you've got a small lanyard hole there. And I would rather have a larger lanyard hole that I could pass something better through, because this is just too short. This is just this is almost like teasing you and saying, "Hey, look at this! You can actually pass a string through this and have a lanyard on your knife." But I don't know if this lanyard is going to be worthwhile. Let me put it that way. So this lanyard, I'm not too impressed with. It's too short for the pocket, and it's just really kind of a reminder that you got a hole there. I think they could have done a better job with the lanyard, like make it twice as long or something like that. The cool thing about this, and the selling point of this, is the size. It is a Neo 6. As a 6, the knife is coming in right at about 3 3/4 inches. If you can see right there, 3 3/4 inches long, closed. And it has a blade that is just under 3 inches, about 2 7/8 inches. And when I was seeing it online, I did not notice this, but someone did point it out. The tip is rounded. You notice the tip is rounded there a little bit, so it's not stabby pokey. So if you want it stabby pokey, you're going to have to take a grinder and grind it down a little bit. The other thing I did notice, though, is that the edge is all the way out to the tip there, and you've got a short handle. So once you start filling the metal portion there, your finger is real close to that blade. There's no little bit of a tang to stop your blade from sliding up and anything, or finger from sliding up, and there's nothing really here to stop it either. Matter of fact, that almost encourages your finger to slide up, the break here. And if you notice, this is not a collar lock. That is the selling point of this. This is the Neo 6 is a Opinel's answer to the slip joint knife. It is not a true slip joint either. There is not a hidden back spring in there. This is what's doing all the action right there. And you do have, if you see here, that's where it goes to until you pull down, and then it will lock. I would not say it's a strong lock, as you can see right there. So you have that going, and you can push it closed, but it won't close all the way on you. You have to close it by hand. And when you get about there, you have to forcibly push it down for it to go all the way closed. So that's the safety feature of it. But this is not like a true slip joint. We all know how a slip joint will work. You have, you know, you see the smoothness there, and the blade will close by just dropping. This will not. You have to push it all the way down, and then you have to push it down into there. So you will have to close it all the way, and you also have to open it all the way, and then it will give on you. And because it is sharp right to there, if your hand is in the way when you're pushing this way, it could, if you're pushing too hard, you could, in theory, cut yourself with the blade. So I don't think it's as safe as Opinel makes it sound, because of how far the blade is sharpened there. I would like to have a little bit of a real tang there. That's my own complaint about it, really. But, you know, I know where they're going with this. There are a lot of places where in Europe, not to mention in the United States, well, not so much the United States, but other countries where you cannot have a locking knife like this. You, even with the collar lock is verboten in many locations too, because it locks the blade open, and there are places where you just cannot have a locking blade. The blade cannot lock open, and that's what they've done with this. The Neo 6 has a non-locking blade. You see the collar lock is missing on there completely. I suppose you might be able to add one. I don't know if you can because of the bump there, but why would you do that? You're paying more for the Neo 6. The only real thing that is different, I think, on this is the fact that they have the little lanyard hole in there. But I think this is will probably sell better than this. For one thing, it's a little cheaper, but it's not as cheap as just the regular Opinel number 6, I don't think. I think this costs a little bit more for a non-locking Opinel. Where I think this will become handy is if they come out with a Neo 7 or a Neo 8 as well. I would like to see a Neo 8 in this. Might even pick one up if it's got an area at the beginning of the blade that is unsharpened, because, or if they have something located here so that you know your finger is getting close to that blade, because especially with this short handle, that's a bit tricky as far as I'm concerned. So if it's a knife to teach you knife safety, it's going to definitely do a good job on that, simply because there are a couple ways that you can cut yourself if you're not careful with this knife. So I don't think that's what they meant by teaching you knife safety, though. That brings us to the last one here, and that's the number 8 Outdoor Sport. And we see here this one has a rope cutting, shackle key, 110 decibel whistle, and that the handle is good from minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 176 degrees Fahrenheit. So the handle will outlive you in the extreme cold and also the extreme heat. If you can handle 176 degrees Fahrenheit, you're pretty good. Any case, this one has a little bit better lanyard. This is the kind of lanyard you see on like the Swiss Army knives and such. I'm not crazy about them. It is really just a little pull thing, but it also has a little bit bigger hole there, so you can pass something a little larger in there. It also has the same whistle, the 110 decibel whistle. This one's in orange and gray. I would like to see this in green as well. But there's the two whistles. It's basically the same whistle. The difference though, well, the sound, they are about the same in strength too. So they work, and they're loud enough. This has the collar lock, and it's got an interesting blade on it, and I like this blade. It's and I'll show the difference between this blade and the blade on a regular Opinel number 8. So as you can see, the blade is significantly different. It's got a serrated portion there, and then a fine edge on the top here, and here's the shackle key that they're talking about built into the blade, which you can also use for pulling the blade out. Not a bad shackle key, about the same size that I've seen on other Mariner's knives and such. I think the reason they went with the serrated edge there, and you can see it right there pretty good, it's a pretty aggressive serration. It isn't the typical one you see in a lot of places, but it will work pretty good for cutting rope and stuff like that, and that's why they have it. You know, so it'll work pretty good on nylon and stuff. I haven't tried it yet. I will put it through a few paces and get back to you on that, but I wanted to show it to you. Obviously it is the collar lock. Now, as you can see, also the cutting edge is right up to the edge there. But the thing is with the collar lock, when you hit the collar lock here, your finger knows you're getting up there. Plus you got a larger handle on this. So, I mean, the overall length on this one, right at 7 3/4 inches. The blade length comes in at 3 1/4 inches. They also have an Outdoor 7 Junior, which is very similar to this, which will have a blade under 3 inches, I believe. Nice point on here. Nice, if you notice, it's kind of a slow drop, but it is I think it's more of a long clip than a drop point going on there. And let's compare it to the regular blade you have on the Opinel 8. You can see there it has a much wider belly going on with it. You can see that, a wider belly. It is also slightly thicker, if you can see there. Don't know how well this is going to measure. All right, let's get that. Okay, so that is right at a 1/16 of an inch. And now we're looking at a little over, comes out at 3/32 of an inch. So just a little bit wider in the blade. So you've got a heavier blade stock going on, even though it does have a cutout there for the shackle key in the blade. But I don't see this breaking anytime soon or anything like that. So a little more substantial blade. You have the, what do they call this? A fiber handle of some kind. In any case, it is some kind of nylon fiber handle, which is going to hold up probably better than the wood. You still have the collar lock, which is nice, and comes with the whistle. It would have been cool if they could have incorporated a tick remover into this, but not that important. Like I said, you can use a plastic fork to get rid of the tick if you really need to. I'm pretty happy with this one. This is the one, this is the keeper out of the group. As I mentioned at the beginning of all this, I really like this one. This one shows a bit of potential, but the big one, I'm just not. I'm not sold on it yet. Let me say it that way. I would like to see somebody go out there and put this thing through its paces. Maybe I will try and do that, but for me, even though it is relatively lightweight, compared, if this was, it could be a lot heavier, I guess, but still, 6¼ inches, actually almost 6½ inches long, closed, and only a 4-inch blade. It's not worth it for the whistle when you consider this one is 4¼ inches closed, with a 3¼ inch blade. This one makes more sense to me. Let me put it that way. I can live without the tick remover. Well, unless I get Lyme disease, but we'll see. We'll worry about that later. This one, a lot of potential though. I would like to see this in a few other sizes. But I get it. I understand the whole point behind this. This is the one that you will be able to carry with you where you cannot have a locking blade. So I got a feeling the folks in the United Kingdom who are fans of Opinel knives, I think this was made just for you. Any case, with that said, I will let you go. Hope you enjoyed this first look at 3 different Opinel knives from somebody who's not the world's biggest fan of Opinel knives.
Let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.